Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Matherly from Desert Haven Enterprises in California. I teach an employment skills training class and I help people find jobs out in the community. Many of my clients have never been on a job interview, so I want to go back to basics today and talk about what is a job interview? What does that even mean? What is its purpose? Why do we do them? That's what we're talking about today. What is a job interview? So the process goes, the employer gets a bunch of applications or resumes, and through those applications, they select who they want to talk to in person. So they screen through the applications. They're looking for the right experience, the right availability, the right people for the job that they want to talk to in person. It's a pretty formal meeting. You should dress nice, of course, and you're going to have a conversation with one or more managers. Sometimes there's two or three. That can get a little bit hairy, but sometimes it's just a fun conversation with a couple of people. It doesn't have to be formal, but you should treat it like it's going to be formal when you don't know for sure. It might be less formal, but it's always best to dress and behave like it's a formal meeting. Formal meeting that you have appropriate language and dress and appearance. They're going to ask you a series of questions about your previous work. If you don't have previous work, they'll ask you questions about your volunteer work or things you do at home or things you did in high school, but it's going to be work related. Okay. They'll also ask you some questions probably about your personality or your work style. Job interviews usually last about 10 or 20 minutes, so it's not forever. You'll spend a lot more time preparing for the interview than in the actual interview. It goes pretty quickly. If the interview goes on longer, that's a good sign that they want to get to know you better. If they rush you out kind of quickly, that's not such a good sign. So if you're having a pleasant conversation and they're learning more about you and you're learning more about the job, it could easily last even longer than 20 minutes, and that's good. The purpose of the interview, employers are trying to discover what kind of worker you are. They don't know you. They don't know where you've worked or not worked. They don't know anything about you, and they're trying to discover things about you so that they can make a hiring decision. Hiring people costs a lot of money. When they bring new people into a company, there's extra expenses with uniforms and training and all these different things, and they want to make sure that they're not wasting their money. They're not going to try you out on a job. They want to make sure they're doing their best to try to find the best people for the position that they're hiring for. They're also looking to make sure you're going to fit in with the culture of the company. And that one's a little bit harder to guess. You can try to help fit in by understanding culture, researching the company before you go in so that you have a better idea of the culture of the company. It could be a style culture, it could be a religious culture, it could be a pace culture, like fast paced, could be I don't know. Culture's a tough one, but you can learn more about their culture by going to their website and reading all the About Us type of pages so that you learn a little bit more about the company. Employers look at the submitted applications, choose who to interview based on the skills, and then a small number of applicants are chosen to be interviewed. I know I already said that. After the interviews, the employer decides who to hire. The job seeker should also use the interview to learn more about the job to make sure it's right for them. It's sort of like you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. Because you might walk out of there and say, I don't want to work here. That's okay. You don't have to take a job just because they offer it. So make sure you ask questions and to learn as much about the company as possible, as much about the job as possible, the hours, the duties, what they're going to expect from you. If it's stuff you can't do, tell them thank you for their time. Thank you so much for interviewing me, but I think I'm going to pass. Or, give it a couple days to think about it. See if they even offer you the job, and then make the decision whether or not you want to take that job. How is an interview used by employers to select new employees? Again, they want to know what kind of worker you are. They want to hear stories from your previous work or your volunteer work or school projects. But tell some stories about yourself that show your work style. These people are judging you. That's their job. That's kind of what's going on here. So it's part of the process. They need to judge you so they can make a choice of who is going to get picked for this job. The way you respond to the questions will be judged, of course, how you answer the questions and your answers to the questions. And then also nonverbal communication is judged. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but also they want to know that you're going to fit in with the culture. You fit in with the company. Nonverbal communication, sending information without words. This could be your appearance, your gestures, and your body language. Gestures are things that you do with your hands or arms folded, fingers in your mouth, sitting with your face, sleeping on your hand, like that. All of those gestures and body language speak for you, even when your mouth's not working, even when your lips aren't moving, even when you're not saying anything. What does this mean? Right? So you can say a lot. And your body language can give away a bad attitude or a bored attitude. If you're not interested in the job, your body language will show that. Nonverbal communication skills are so important in a job interview. Employers rely on nonverbal communication as a major way of judging who you are and what kind of worker you're going to be. I don't know where they came up with this chart, but 55% of the way we communicate is through body language, movements, face, arms. And then notice on that chart, only 7%, where's that chart? It's over there. 7% words. So it almost doesn't matter what you say, it matters more how you say it, right? With enthusiasm and a smile and faked confidence. We all have to fake it. The way you say it, 38%, your tone of voice, the way you pause, the way you tell a story. Practice these things because they're so important in a job interview. That if you can sell them on yourself, even if you don't have the experience, then you're going to get the job. You're going to have your choice of jobs because you can sell yourself in a job interview. You are worth hiring, and it's your job to express that to them, to let them know how awesome you are and how you're going to learn everything you need to know to do this job right. 55% body language. That's a lot. That's over half, right? What kind of questions are asked in interviews? A lot. That's pretty much what they do. They ask you questions. Sometimes they'll ask you to tell a story. Sometimes they ask you easy questions with yes or no answers. You should never answer just with yes or no. Always want to back that up with a little bit of a story about your job experience or volunteer experience or school experiences. Questions about your skills, talents, and abilities. Specifically, the skills that are going to be required for the job you're applying for. If you have done those skills before, perfect. If you've done similar skills before, great, because you can transfer those skills to the new job. Your goals. I want to work at this company and have my own store someday, whatever your goals may be. Maybe your goals are just to finish school and you're looking for a part-time job to work around school. But it helps them to know how long you plan on being with the company. They generally want to hear in the years, okay? Don't give them 6 months unless it's a super seasonal like Christmas job. temporary job, then it's okay to say that you only want to work for 6 months, but it should be more like in years. They're going to ask you about your past work experience. Know your resume. What's on your resume? If someone else wrote that resume for you, make sure you read it and understand it and make sure that it's true, because they're going to ask you, so when you worked at such and such a place, did you, how many restrooms did you have to clean? I never worked there. Oh my God, what? Know your resume. If it's not right, fix it and be prepared to answer questions about the jobs that are on your resume. Be prepared for that. Work ethic is also your work style, how loyal and dedicated you are to work. How quickly you work is also part of work ethic. Being responsible and accountable for the jobs and getting them done on time, that's all part of work ethic. And then number 5, your attitude has to be friendly. It has to be friendly in the interview, and it has to be friendly on the job. If they like you, they will retrain you over and over again to do a job correctly. If you are friendly and nice and enthusiastic and you work hard and you try hard, they will try hard to help you learn the job, and you'll get it with a friendly attitude. Super important. Super important. Super important. A friendly attitude. So that starts in the job interview. Before the interview, be prepared. Have your interview clothes ready pretty much all the time, because employers are not going to give you a whole lot of advance notice for your job interview. Sometimes it's just a couple hours. Sometimes it's overnight, like they'll call you the day before. Can you come in tomorrow? Just a side note, always say yes to a job interview. Don't try to change the time when they can see you. You're working on their schedule right now. Say yes to whatever time they want to see you. Have your clothes ready so you're not panicked trying to get your clothes ready before the job interview. Breathe and be calm. Practice your breathing at home. Practice being calm. Practice common interview questions. You all know the ones. Tell me about a time you worked with a team. Tell me about a time you had a safety hazard and what you did about it. Tell me about a mistake you made on the job. Common things. Make sure you know what your availability is. When are you available to work? Not your ideal schedule, but when are you available to work? Are you willing to wrap your life around this job, right? Plan and practice traveling to the interview. Make sure you know how to get there. You don't want to be late to the interview because you got lost. Okay, so if you don't know where it is, Google map it, find out where it is, practice traveling there if you have time, like the week before or something, practice traveling to that location so that you're not late. Never ever want to be late to a job interview. You should arrive around 10 or less than 10 minutes early, right around there. Not 20 or 30 minutes early, but 15, 10 is good. Practice traveling to the interview. Have your clothes ready. During the interview, sit up straight, smile, and be super friendly. Offer them a copy of your resume, right? They may already have one, that's okay. But you say, do you have a copy of my resume? And you hand it to them like that. When they're asking you questions, if you don't understand, ask them to rephrase the question. Notice I didn't say repeat, because you don't want them to just say the exact same question they just said. If they can rephrase it or explain it to you a little bit better, that's better. And it also helps with conversation and gives you a little more time to think about your answer. Don't ask them to rephrase every question if you can. You want to try to answer some of them without them having to do that. Some big corporate companies have very complicated questions that are a paragraph long. I mean, like this many words. And so sometimes you just need it kind of boiled down to what is the question here? Is this a safety question? Is it a teamwork question? Ask them to rephrase it. It gives you a little more time to think about it. Don't say bad things about yourself. You want to show them your best qualities. If they ask you a question about something bad, like a mistake or a weakness, right, then you kind of have to talk about that, but you can spin it to where it comes out good. Like if you're talking about a weakness, you want to spin it to show that you are already overcoming that weakness and what is it that you're doing to overcome that weakness. If it's a mistake you made, what you did about the mistake, and how are you preventing that mistake from happening again. Very specifically, what are you doing? Not just being more careful, but reading labels or specific things that you're doing to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen. So it turns into a positive, how you had bad things happen, but you turn them into lessons for yourself, or you learned something from these bad things. So even the questions where you have to say bad things about yourself, you turn them into something good by talking about the lessons you learned from that experience. Don't bring up any weaknesses that you were not asked to bring up. Okay. Take notes if you want. You should definitely have a folder and a blank piece of paper inside, so that if you think of a question you want to ask later, you can just jot down a word to remind you that you want to ask about that. It's okay to ask questions during the interview, or you could save them to the end, but ask a question, ask any question during the interview. It shows that you're more interested in the job, shows that you want to learn more about the position. Ask for a business card during the interview so that you can follow up later and make sure that you're spelling the interviewer's name right. You got this. It seems complicated, but it's not. And once you've done it a few times and once you've practiced and prepared, you'll be able to do this no problem. After the interview, ask them, when can you expect a callback? When do you expect a hiring decision? When will I hear from you? Those kind of questions. Ask them if or when you should call them. Some companies don't like being called or will ask you not to call. And other companies are like, if you haven't heard from me by Tuesday, call me on Wednesday, right? So it's okay to ask about calling, but don't call without permission first. Some companies don't appreciate that at all. Make sure you say thank you and tell them how much you appreciate the opportunity to learn more about the company. It was a pleasure meeting you, all of those kinds of things. And then afterwards, send a thank you note. If you got their business card, you should have their email. You can email them a thank you note very quickly. Or if you're going to mail an actual written thank you note, then get it in the mail fast, because it's going to take a couple of days to get there. So make sure you get a business card, their address, their full name, so that you can take care of a thank you note. It really goes a long way. People aren't doing them as much as they used to. They're a good idea, thank you notes. Good luck on your first interview. I hope that you learned something in this lesson today. Remember that the more you practice and prepare, the more confident you're going to feel in this job interview. Yes, they are judging you, but you got this. You are good for this job. You can do this job, and that's what you want to tell them. I want to learn everything in this business, and I want to do a really good job for you. Practice saying that in the mirror. Tell yourself how awesome you are. Get in there and get that job. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.